Welcome to In Depth with Preston Buford. Hello and welcome to In Depth. I'm Preston Buford. Today we're talking about pastoral care and what it's like to be the life of a pastor. Please welcome Pastor Lewis.
It's good to be here. Glad you invited me to this. I think it's going to be a fantastic interview.
Awesome. Pastor Lewis, how long have you been teaching God's Word?
A little over 30 years.
Wow, that's a long time. That's a very long time. Would you mind sharing your testimony with us?
Sure, not at all. Well, initially I hadn't really planned on being in the ministry because there was a time when I might not have been such a good guy. And my first wife was actually in the hospital, and she had cancer, and she was passing away, and she was not leaving the hospital. So I was there visiting her, and I always wore black suit, black fedora hat, and so I had a certain look. I either looked like a mobster or I looked like a priest. Okay. And so in her hospital room, I was getting ready to leave, and as I started to walk down the aisle, I heard somebody say, "Father, can you pray for me?"
Oh, wow.
And so I looked around and I'm like, I know they're not talking to me. So I poked my head in this room, and it was a little elderly lady, and she said, "Father, can you pray for me?" And I thought to myself, "Lewis, you're going to hell. There's just no way you're getting around it. You're going to hell." So I said, "Okay." So I sat next to this lady without a clue of how to pray, or what am I going to say?
So you didn't know God at this time at all?
I didn't know God. I mean, I knew about Him, and I played church now and then, but it was always, well, what am I going to get out of it?
Oh, okay.
So that was the type of church person I was. I knew my life was really bad, but I never wanted to cross that line of getting on God's bad side. So I just stay out of His way. So I take the little old lady's hand, and I'm like lost for words. So I'm just like, words are coming out like e pluribus unum, and just all this stuff that made no sense whatsoever. But she seemed to be moved by it, and so my whole time I'm thinking to myself, you're going to hell because you're making a mockery of God and of prayer. And I did believe that prayer worked, but I didn't believe it worked through me.
Oh.
So, I mean, if somebody was going to pray and they're a Christian, I believed that it would work, even in those times, but just not coming from someone like me. So I left her room, and I started on my way towards the elevator, and I heard it again. "Father, can you pray for me?" And between the first room and the elevator, at least 4 or 5 times, I was in someone's room, and I started praying for them. And something happened to me, because when I got to the elevator, I got in the elevator, and I just felt weird. And then I started crying, and I couldn't stop crying. And in my heart and in my mind, I knew those weren't the tears that I knew I was losing my wife. Those were different tears. The tears of everything that I have done in my life was coming to the surface. And then I found myself praying that God forgive me, not just for my life, but for mocking Him as I was praying for those people. And I was asking God not to take it out on them, that let those prayers be real, and let those words be real. And I didn't understand what I was feeling, but I knew it changed me that day. and I never looked back.
So it's like in that elevator, you guys almost had like a come to Jesus moment.
I had an absolute come to Jesus. And I said, wow, is this what it feels like? To actually feel like he's actually watching you.
Awesome. That's a powerful.
I never
testimony.
looked back.
Wow. So do you mind if we ask you a few questions?
Sure, absolutely.
So our first question would be, what kind of services could someone expect from pastoral care?
I think that people overlook exactly what they can get from a pastor, because unfortunately, there's a lot of people who think, well, a pastor's job is to get your money. So there's a lot of people that, feel like, well, I'm not going to church, I can give my money somewhere else.
Exactly.
Right?
Sure.
But yet, when somebody is sick, somebody feels defeated in life, they turn to two people. They either turn to their mom or they turn to God.
Yeah.
And because when you have people who are not Christian, they have been stereotyped with, well, if I need to talk to God or I need forgiveness, I need a priest. I need to talk to a priest. And, as Christians, we alleviated that middleman.
Yeah.
And we didn't need that person. We could go directly to Christ. But when someone is lost and defeated, they feel like God is not hearing them. If he was, why would they be going through what they're going through? So that's why pastors or ministers, preachers, we go to hospitals, we meet with people, we counsel people. Pastoral care is not something that we have to do, because God gives us that choice that this is what I want to do, Lord. The Lord purchased mankind through his blood. So he bought a flock of sheep.
Yes.
And to take care of those flocks, he has the sheep herders. And pretty much that's what we are.
Yeah.
We're sheep herders. We are given that assignment of helping somebody go from a baby lamb to a full-grown sheep and watching them grow throughout that whole time. So we will spend that time of sitting with somebody and counseling them and watching them grow. And somebody gets sick, we're there. We're there to facilitate their growth with God,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
That's actually a wonderful way of looking at it.
Okay.
All right. So my second question is, has becoming a pastor changed your view of the world? And if so, how?
It changed it hugely, because it actually, in a way, really put me in a spot, because I used to think that the world is getting worse, which means I had to put myself in a position of only the strong survive.
Oh, okay.
You see, so this is going to have to get to a point to where we have to stock up and we have to prepare monetarily and physically, not just to defend, but as the strong, will I have to take care of my family? Am I going to have to do this? Becoming a Christian and a pastor really made me realize that it's not just this physical thing that you got to prepare for. You have to prepare emotionally and spiritually to make sure that your walk with God is on that path and not just focused on what am I going to do to defend and protect my family. But it has definitely made me look at the world in a way that you can see the end times are coming. And you can feel that the end times are coming, because it shows every time you turn on the TV, you see something bad. You see somebody did this or that, and you see Satan's hand in it.
Oh, yeah, sure.
People from the world, they can't see Satan's hand in it. They look at it as, and I've actually heard people tell me, this is a fight between God and Satan, let them fight it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll go with the winner. Well,
It doesn't exactly work that way.
it doesn't work that way, but it will definitely make you sit up and realize that I have a lot more to prepare than just a physical thing, because we don't know when the Lord's coming.
Oh, no, for sure.
It's not like a thief turns the light on and lets you know, so yeah, I need to be able to see what I'm going to take.
Yeah, no,
Right.
You gotta grab what you grab.
Right, yeah.
All right, so looking at James chapter 3, verse 1,
Yeah.
did it ever make you rethink, maybe I should not take this position?
Yes, it did. When I was in my studies and I'm learning more and more and more, it didn't dawn on me that, Lewis, do you realize the position you're actually taking on? Because you're not only in a position of trust to people and other church members and new Christians and older Christians, you're in a position of trust that God placed you in for a reason. Therefore, you're going to be judged harsher,
Yeah.
right? Because, and you may think, that, oh, I'm doing this, Lord, I cast out in your name, Lord, I healed in your name. And then to have that thought of, am I doing enough? Because when it becomes your ministry, you're going to end up getting in front of God, and he's going to say, I don't know you, and he's going to vomit you from his mouth. I don't know you. And you're like, but wait, didn't I do this, and didn't I do this, and didn't I? Yes, you got your blessing. You did what you did for your own benefit. So when I started getting into James, I really had to sit back and reflect. Say, okay, am I doing this for the right reason? Am I doing this for my own benefit? Or because I really remember the life I led?
Oh, okay.
And said, Lord, I'm really, really sorry. And that's actually why any time that I open a Bible study or I open a Sunday service, I always say, Lord, let what we do glorify you. So it is never Pastor Lewis's program. It's never Justin Peters' program or Raul Reese. It's not our program. This is God's program and God's message. And James 3 will set you back when you are studying to be a pastor. It will definitely set you back, because James 3 says not all men should become teachers.
Yeah.
Right? It's not, all men, placed in a position, but should not be. That's a warning.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's pretty blunt.
Yeah, the Lord is saying you better be sure. Be sure what you're asking for. But I do believe that we don't choose. That I didn't expect to be a pastor. When I became a pastor, there were a lot of people were like, "What? Are you kidding me? Him? Really? Are you kidding me?" And I actually had people tune in and watch. People from the old days would actually talk to each other and say, "Can you believe Lewis Callahan is a preacher?" And they're like, "You're lying." And they're like, "No, really." And they would watch the program and they're like, "You gotta be kidding me. Maybe there is a God." Maybe he does change people.
For sure. So our fourth question, we all communicate with God on some level, but what is the best way God communicates with you?
I think by example.
Okay.
I look at people in the Bible. I look at people in my life, people who affect me. Believe it or not, you're actually one of those people, that affect me because I read what you write on my lighthouse every day, and I find myself expecting it now. I'm like, all right, what's Preston got to say, right? So I find myself reading it. And I think that the Lord really communicates me through the mistakes I've made and Him assuring me that I'm in the right place. And even though I'm not perfect, even though I'm going to stumble, even though He's going to need both hands to pull me out of that mud and set me on solid ground, I'm still in that right path.
Okay. So, when you were speaking about the characters of the Bible, and I'm sure none of them wanted to, or thought that they would ever be on that path. Which character from the Bible do you feel you're most like, and why?
Okay. I think most people, Christian-wise, they gravitate towards Paul for the reasons of the instant change that God made in Paul on that road to Damascus.
Oh, yeah.
That it was instant. And so they associate that with their life that, wow, I remember when I was on a bad road and God changed me. Instantly I felt that change. I felt new. I've been through that. But I still say Paul, but because Paul said, the things I do, I don't want to do. And the things I don't want to do, I do. You see, so even though we're talking about one of the most influential people in the Bible that still struggled with those things, that, hey, I'm still struggling every day. I don't want to do these things. I don't want to think these things, because not just doing these things, but the things I think, I don't want to think. But yet the things I don't want to think, I think. So please don't judge me on that, because it's not me. It's the same thing when Paul said, I've done nothing to you. That was Saul, who is no longer here, right? I used to do the same thing because I used to go by Lou. Everybody knew me by Lou. And I try to let people know, my name is Lewis. That Lou no longer exists because he's associated with this bad thing. Just like Paul was Saul, he was associated with these things. But yet, he still had a good heart. He still had a good mind. He just thought he was doing the right thing, and he wasn't. So I believe that it would probably be Paul, but based on the struggles that he still had even after being saved.
Oh, okay. So yours is not like the front thing. It's the continuous.
After you got saved, because too many people believe that, all of a sudden you're saved and now, you don't sin no more.
That's not the case.
And that's not it. It's a struggle.
Yes, for sure.
And especially being a pastor, because Satan wants to do everything he can, not just to make you fall, but to make God look bad.
Yes.
So that's our struggle.
Yes, sir. So you being a pastor, if our viewers at home had a question for you, would you mind answering it later in the comments?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Always welcome it.
Okay. And so you're from My Lighthouse Ministries.
Right.
How can we contact you? Is that through Facebook? Or?
It is on Facebook. You can go to My Lighthouse Ministry, and or on Facebook. There is a Facebook page there, and you'll be able to see the page. You'll be able to leave comments. Hopefully they're good ones. But yeah, we are very easy to reach.
All right. Well, I encourage everyone to go and check them out. You'll be on Sunday, correct?
I will be. We will be talking about, are you hot, cold, or lukewarm? Which one would you want to be?
Oh,
That's
that
what we're
sounds-
talking
That
about.
sounds interesting. That sounds
Yes.
very interesting. So I hope you guys all join. Next week, we're going to be talking about prayer. We're going to go in depth. We thank you so much for joining us this week, and we will see you next week. We thank you, and God bless.
God bless.